Welcome to Accounting High.
My mom and my brother are very visually oriented. They're super good at jigsaw puzzles. They can sit down, they see the colors, they see how pieces work together, and they can just throw those puzzles together, and it's great. And I suck at them. I'm really bad at them. But for me, tax is like that. And so it's taking all of the pieces and just putting it together the way that it's supposed to be, even though I don't know what the picture looks like until I'm done. But the picture is going to make sense because I've put all the pieces together. And if it doesn't make sense, then we have to rearrange some things. And my brain is really satisfied with that because there's an answer. And I don't have to get there the same way that somebody else does, necessarily.
May I have your attention, please?
Welcome to Accounting High. It's freshman year at a brand new school. Here, we have no rules in place as we're on a mission to set our own traditions. So hang tight and learn with us as we grow. At Accounting High, you can expect to gain knowledge in a completely different way than what you may be used to, with some fun and oftentimes colorful conversations. Whether you loved high school or you hated it, here's your chance to be a part of an unforgettable experience redone. While you're here, don't forget to follow us on Spotify or subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you may be listening to us right now so you don't miss out on any new episodes. And feel free to leave us a 5-star review letting us know how the school year is treating you. In addition, share this episode on social media, tagging us at Accounting High. So sit back, relax, and open your mind because class is in session.
I repeat, may I have your attention, please?
This is another public service announcement brought to you in part
by Accounting High.
The views and events expressed here are
of the next generation of accounting and tech professionals leading this space.
The events and suggestions are not to be taken lightly. Children should not partake in the listening
of this podcast.
Anything else?
Yeah.
So without further ado, introducing the star of our show,
Scott Scarano.
We're gonna have a problem here.
So, class is in session. We've got 2 of the tax Twitter twin towers. I don't know where I'm gonna go with the alliteration here, right? But my first foray into tax Twitter, y'all were pretty prominently recommended by people. If I said, "What do I want to do?" and if I'm going to tax Twitter, who am I going to follow and all that? I think Adam Markowitz suggested both of you, strongly suggested both of y'all that I should follow y'all. But we have Mary McDonald, Accounting is Art, and we have Amber Gray Fenner, the tax therapist. It was my idea to have you both on at the same time.
We won't get into any trouble whatsoever. It'll be fine.
And it's a good chance to prove we're not one and the same person, which sometimes some people think we are.
Apparently, which, hey, is awesome for me. I win with that one.
Ditto.
Yeah,
Exactly.
They've never done this with the Mary Kate and Nelson twins, right? They've never done that. They've never proven that they're 2 different people. You guys are definitely different people. Mm-hmm. And I think you both have a unique value prop for our listeners. One is coming from CPA, traditional firm, so to speak, right? Mary, you're...
Mm-hmm. We're growing. So we've got about 13 people right now, but
You're a partner,
Amber, you have your
right?
own practice, right?
I have my own practice, yeah.
You have your own practice, tax practice.
Correct.
Okay. So let's start with Amber, since she was the first in the room, got here before me.
I'm a
Amber,
control
tell me about your
enthusiast.
childhood.
we're going way back. All right.
Way back. I was born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. Las Vegas High School, UNLV, for those of you who are stalking me on Twitter.
Did you say high school?
Las Vegas High School, which was like
Okay.
the original high school in Las Vegas, the very first one, and then UNLV. I'm an only child. Sometimes that's evident. I don't know. What else do you want to know?
No, I think that's a good start. We're kicking us off. So we've got, the roots coming from Vegas. I would like to know how you ended up in Albuquerque from Vegas. Is there a bit of a step there that we missed?
Yeah, I was wanting to make a change. I left Las Vegas about the time it really started booming in terms of population and growth. And my not at that time husband's job moved here to New Mexico, and I was ready to make a change, so I moved as well.
I didn't know people could come from Las Vegas.
I get that a
I
lot.
thought everybody went there.
And yeah, I'm one of those oddball people. It's a struggle going back. Like I was back there last week for the NATP and NAEA national tax conferences.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those associations had them kind of simultaneously in Las Vegas, and it's always a struggle going back because part of me feels like I'm just not from Las Vegas anymore. New Mexico has assimilated me.
I was very impressed. I went there for the first time last year for Engage, and man, it's incredible. That's a cool place. Let me just say, like I see it all the time in movies, and like see pictures of it, but just being there, it's like every hotel is its own mini city. Almost, I feel.
Yeah,
the scope of it.
They try to be self-contained.
Yeah.
And
well, it's a lot of opulence there, though, too. A lot of sex and money. That's all you see there. At least for me. That's all I see. But I see the art there, too.
Growing up there, it can really skew your attitudes towards sex and money. I'll tell you that.
Okay. I mean, growing up anywhere will skew your attitudes towards sex and money. I mean, that's just, we all have our own deep-rooted psychological issues around sex and money, but that's its own thing. So you ended up in Albuquerque. Now, when I think Albuquerque, I think drugs. So we've got sex, money, and drugs, right? Like, I don't know if that's what you guys are supposed to be known for.
Oh, man. You're so much younger. All I think about is Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So have never watched a single episode of that TV show. Yes.
That TV show that will not be named.
Right. Yeah. There are plenty of drugs here. They just legalized recreational marijuana on July 1st.
Oh, cheers.
But yeah.
That's fairly recent.
Yeah, very recent. They've had medical for a while, but the recreational took a while. It's an art city. It's a food city. I tend to focus, I'm airy-fairy hippie Earth Mother woman, so I tend to focus on that stuff more than the drugs.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I always bring
okay.
up the worst possible. I go to the seedy sex, money, and drugs first before anything else. So, yeah, whenever I think of Albuquerque, I always get it confused with Austin, Texas. Like, just in my mind.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any, like, obviously you wouldn't think that, but, people get us confused with South Carolina all the time. I'm in North Carolina, so it's one of those kind of things. Where, aren't you near Myrtle Beach? Like, not really. Maybe this is just a me thing, but the New Mexico, where's Austin's Texas, right? And Arizona too, like, and apparently Nevada are all kind of,
We're all the
It's
South
just one state.
West.
Right.
I've seen maps where New Mexico is just eliminated. As Texas and Arizona are adjacent to each other, and New Mexico just doesn't exist. Or people think, they'll joke, it ain't new and it ain't Mexico. We're actually part of the United States.
I also think there's some decent colleges there. I live in a big college town, so I consider New Mexico's got a pretty good, Herb Sendek went to New Mexico to coach basketball, I'm pretty sure. So that's what I think of because I guess he was big around here because NC State. But
I went to UNLV during the Tarkanian years, so that kind of obliterates all other basketball for me.
So how did you get into accounting? That hasn't come up yet. How did you get into tax?
Amber doesn't do accounting.
That's a difference though, right?
Yes. Absolutely. I have a really limited amount of formal training in bookkeeping and accounting, just enough to make sure that I know what I'm doing when I prepare a tax return. Accounting is not part of my practice. I inherited my practice suddenly when my mom passed away in 2010.
Was she in at Albuquerque, or did you?
No, she had offices in rural Nevada, 2 offices out there that were also she sold insurance. And so, but her rural offices, because she had a tax and accounting background, and people trusted her, and she was in these tiny little towns. She would do tax returns because a lot of the clients weren't, as I call them, paperwork people or computer people. And so they would trust her to, get it right, do the e-filing, that sort of thing. So
10
Nevada.
years ago, 10 years ago is actually a pretty significant difference than today as far as how many people were on computers and have adopted that. I mean, we're still seeing some big shifts in our industry in particular, but even just consumers, right? When you talk about the individual taxpayers.
The entire landscape has changed. I don't know how long my mother would have stayed. She was getting very close to retirement anyway, but I don't know how long she would have stayed in the industry. Loving came and went, and gosh, I don't know, just all of the e-filing compliance stuff. There's just been so much change that I think my mother would have just said, I've had a gutful. I'm out of here, like a lot of people are doing right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are running away from something or running towards something, or both at the same time. I'm seeing it. I'm doing it. I mean, I basically ran away from my practice so I can get out of the day-to-day, and now I don't know where I'm running. I feel like I'm biking now. I'm on the spin. I'm doing my spin classes. We're going to get into your spin class too. I'm just like cycling in place here. I just got a Peloton, so I'm going to keep driving those spin class references.
There you go.
But so in a lot of cases, we can go into the rooted reason on why people are running and why some are running toward and away. And then we can also bring in, how tax Twitter is like a coping mechanism for some people, or the therapy outlet, or a way that they have their outlet. I mean, I see that a lot. A lot of tax practitioners are on there, and that's their place to vent. That's the place that they can get it all out, and everybody's there for moral support, for digital support, right? So why take this up? Why take it up from your mother?
When I inherited the business, the county that she had the business in was one of the hardest hit by the 2008 crash. And people there were still really, really struggling. And so I just kind of had a baptism by fire into the industry as far as not wanting to leave her clients hanging. And so I just did it. I just went for it. And at the time I had another career, but I was also working freelance at that career. I was a technical writer, and I had a sole source contract with one of the national labs out here to write for this is going to get so wonky. the distributed and renewable energy department at Sandia National Labs. So I was their technical writer, and so I was doing both.
Mary,
for a
didn't you
while.
just get solar panels? If we're talking about renewable,
Yeah,
Totally did.
yeah. And so anyway, I just took it on, and for a while I did both, and then I was trying to become a better tax professional, take some continuing ed, blah blah blah, and things just kept coming up where it was like a documentation emergency, and there didn't used to be documentation emergencies in government work. and all of a sudden everything, so the IRS isn't the only government agency that's dysfunctional, lacking funding, getting funding at the last minute. Yeah.
I thought it was synonymous when you say government agency and dysfunctional.
Right.
Those were.
That's fine.
Yeah. I finally had to pick one or the other, and I saw a lot more potential in tax, and I really enjoyed it. And so I told my clients, sorry, y'all, this is the last bit, and just moved full-time into tax.
Now you went from one government agency to the other. Kind of, right? In a way, you're not working for the agency, but we have no choice. We have to work with the agency in a lot of ways.
Sure.
I'm an EA as well. So when did you get your EA?
Got my EA in 2015. I wanted in time for the 2016 filing season, I think. So it hasn't
Now,
been that long.
Yeah, and not a lot of people I think on tax Twitter, it's people understand and know what an EA is, and definitely our listeners do. But how often do your clients refer to you as their CPA?
God. So I have some of the better trained clients in the industry. If they do that, they only do it maybe for the first year. And
Okay.
I have the EA explanation when I have business cards, which I'm not currently taking new clients, so I don't have business cards right now. I
saw that on your website. Yeah.
the explanation of what an enrolled agent is actually printed on the back of my business cards. And
I like it.
and mostly it's not clients, it's potential clients. And that's one of the first things is I explain to them, I'm not a CPA. I don't do accounting in the practice. And, but I am federally licensed as a tax return preparer. I have plenty of tax knowledge, as much, if not more than many CPAs.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a shame we have to do that. I used to have to do that all the time. And, I gave up after a certain point. I just let people say it. I didn't want to have to correct them every time because they're not looking to be corrected. They just want to get their problem solved. And I had CPAs that worked for me, so I just kind of let them do that. But at some point, I just went and turned it into a joke, and I would just say, "I'm the executive assistant." That's what mine stands for. That's it. Like I can facilitate everything for you, but I'm not even going to be doing it for you. So whatever. Like it was more of my ego or pride or whatever it might be. But
I just consider it kind of a teachable moment. I'm big about educating taxpayers in general. It's one of the reasons I've taken some of the side gigs I've taken. I just want to get better information out there for taxpayers. So I don't really get tired of explaining it, but I don't push it if I don't correct people every single time or whatever.
Well, that's why you're going to be an adjunct faculty at Accounting High too. But are we going to have to change it to Accounting and Tax High? Like when you say I'm not an accountant, like I'm just trying to get one word.
That's fine.
First, I want to get rid of the male thing on Sons of CPAs because I got females as co-hosts, and right now Mary's the co-host of your episode, right?
Sweet.
Nice.
And you're going to be co-host of Mary's, but
Hey, go us.
Do the
Cool.
flip. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do the flip. First, I had to do that, but then I wanted to get rid of just the CPAs, like on the title, because I'm not even a CPA. I'm the son of a CPA, but I'm not a CPA. So accounting just seemed like the right word, right? People use CAS all the time, and we like our 3-letter words. We love our acronyms in our industry and our profession. A lot of professions like acronyms, but everybody has the same acronyms for stuff or different acronyms for the same letters. It's crazy.
I wrote for
So
the
I was like, all
national
right, accounting will
labs,
work.
right?
But when you think accounting, a lot of times, don't you think of tax too? Like, doesn't it?
I do. I think a lot of people think I don't do accounting by choice. I deal with really tiny, what I call nano-businesses. And I help them with their income and expense tracking, and I help them with their fixed assets, but I'm not out there selling them cloud accounting services because it's not really my thing. If they get that large, I'm usually referring them out to somebody that specializes in that and really enjoys it. But I'm fine with accounting. I can be the high part. I'm at 5,000 feet here. So
there's a lot of triple entendres with this high.
There we go.
Bit here that we're doing. There's the high for high school. There's the high for your feet. There's the high margins that we talk about a lot, and then obviously in about 1 hour and 2 minutes, I'm going to be getting high too. So there's that because I'm on East Coast time. I know both of y'all are not.
Oh, there we go. I was like, that's really specific. In an hour and 2 minutes. I don't care what I'm doing. This is happening.
Probably, almost definitely, like every day, right around. And the only reason is because I try not to get high before that time. I'm trying to be a productive human and contribute in some ways to society. And also, these episodes are kind of crazy if I'm too high. So
Fair.
back to the high elevation. Let's keep it there. Let's not. I've already done sex and drugs too much. So and money. Well, no, let's keep talking about the money though.
Sure.
The money part is integral to this series, this show. So you dove in, you got your EA.
I did.
You're a tax practitioner practicing tax mostly with nano businesses. Why the word nano? Where does nano?
Nano comes because my definition, the IRS definition of a small business is, under 25 million in gross
Broad.
receipts.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, no.
SMB, I hear that a lot too. And like, what is SMB? Like but no, nano, I like it. And it's not as deflating as micro business, right? Like that's a little bit more.
And it's even smaller than micro. I mean, I'm dealing with my 1040 clients are professionals like me, attorneys in solo practice or maybe a tiny little partnership, or freelance writers, freelance performing artists, people like that. I'm not dealing with people that do retail or people that have a huge amount of transaction volume in terms of their customers, vet clinics or whatever. So yeah, tiny. And they need guidance, but they don't necessarily need, $800 to $1,000 a month of back office.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
So speaking of the money part though, I saw some prices on the website.
Sure.
Right. Where does the 225 come from?
Oh, the 225 went up. So if you saw a 225, that might have been this year's price. I have a returning client price and I have a new client price, and the new client price is a significant jump because I've found
What's the new client price?
$350 for next year, which isn't going to seem huge to a lot of people, but
it's huge comparatively
for my area. I've looked at the studies. So here's for my area, and that's for 1040 only. Doesn't include capital gains, doesn't include a Schedule C. It's just your basic 1040. For my geographical area, I'm probably higher than average. For my credentials, I'm lower than average. And because I don't just have an EA, I'm actually admitted to the tax court bar.
Yeah.
So.
But even with an EA, you're still miles above some of the shops that just open up and they're just tax practices. And then during the year, they're doing something else, right? They pop up and
we have a lot of that here, and they run the gamut. Some of my colleagues are amazing unenrolled preparers. They're just kind of so close to retirement, they don't want to bother getting the EA.
Sure.
But yeah, there's also a lot of crap here.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that you have to compete with when it comes to new and potential clients is, oh, well, this guy's only charging me $150. Like, I'm sure you get that kind of stuff a lot.
I do, but I had this big epiphany earlier this year, which was this whole, I'm no longer in growth mode. So I don't even have those conversations. If somebody is like, well, I don't like your price, I'm like, I'm sure you can find somebody to do it cheaper. And then I also joke, rep rates are 3 times prep rates. It's like, okay, well, when you need me to defend that, that's going to cost you 3 times as much or fix it or whatever.
I like that.
Yeah. So I just kind of stay out of the argument, but I am going to say that I have that luxury. I'm a half of an income in my house and have always been half of an income in my house, whether I was doing technical writing or tax. And so I have the luxury of being able to kind of define and say, I'm going to not do this. And then the writing has also kind of given me a little bit more of an out to be a little more selective about clients who want to come in.
Mm-hmm.
The
writing. So I write for Think Outside the Tax Box, which is an industry publication. And they're online, thinkoutsidethetaxbox.com. And then I'm a contributor for Forbes.com. So I write on individual tax topics and IRS issues for Forbes.
Oh, that must be great.
It's fun.
And, I love the creative outlets too.
Yeah.
I mean, you're kind of merging the creative aspect of it, and we'll get to that on the next part of this episode because I know somebody else that's pretty creative in this room. Yeah. So
wait.
yeah, I dig it. So but baptized by fire, but you're kind of owning it now. Like this is life, right? You're the tax therapist. Now tell me, tax therapists, where did this origin
because
come from?
it's never just about the money. It's never just about it's never just about the numbers. And that, I don't know, I think sometimes a lot of more accounting focused people struggle with that, but I'm more on the words, on the law side of the tax thing. And so it's never just about the numbers. People come in with all kinds of baggage. I don't know if you remember when James Gandolfini died, and they were second guessing his estate planning because he was paying extra taxes. And somebody finally, pushed back and said, maybe he did it that way knowing that he was going to pay extra taxes, but that's the way he wanted it.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, it's not all about optimizing taxes. There are always trade-offs.
Mm-hmm.
It's rare that we get clients wanting to pay more in taxes. We do get clients that are more honest than others and that say, I want to pay my fair share, and that don't complain.
Right.
But typically it's rare in most cases that clients don't complain about their tax bill, whatever it is. If you have to deliver it to them and it's over 10 grand, they are never going to be happy. Sometimes if it's over or their refund is not big enough.
I actually have one of my favorite clients for years. I would give them these 5-figure bills. I would try to get them to pay estimates, but they were like, no, we just want to keep our money. We're okay with that. We're okay with paying, the penalty because that's just, fee for using our money. And I would hand them these 5-figure bills, and they're like, wow, we thought it would be bigger. And so, okay,
those
you're
are the
my
ones you
client
love.
forever and ever and ever. Yeah, and they're really great clients, and they've sent me a lot of referrals. And I always leave a little room for, everybody wants to complain about their bill, but if I have potential clients that come in that are, the clients that call me and they're like, well, I want to come to you, and it's like, well, what's the problem? Why are you leaving your account, or why are you switching from DII? I'm just getting raped by the government. It's like, okay, no, you're not. No, you are not. And I usually, at this point, again, before I would maybe try to help explain to them one of the big differences between income tax and self-employment tax. First, Mary's like eye rolling. Yeah. No, that's okay, right? Because it's a thing. It's like people are like, I'm paying so much in taxes. And it's like, look, your income tax here is $500, but you didn't pay estimated taxes and you're self-employed. That's a completely different kind of tax. And I have that conversation a lot, and clients that get it and want to fix it and want to plan for their tax payments remain my clients. Clients who just want to get shown the door.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find that there's a correlation between, well, first, like good clients always breed more good clients. Usually, typically, I've found that. Usually. But we never have enough of them, because a lot of times the ones that make it through the door are extra nice during the sales process. They're so attentive, and then all of a sudden they're in, and then they flip on you.
You're a
like
nightmare.
All of a sudden, yeah. Do you find that like the person that's complaining most about their prior accountant and they're super nice, I feel like they're trying to sell themselves on us. Like they're more so selling us than we're trying to sell them in a lot of cases.
I usually won't take a client that complains too much about their prior accountant or tax professional, because that's exactly what happens. If they say, oh, my person's, getting older and I don't feel like they're doing as good of a job because they're trying to handle too much work during season, or I feel like they're too focused on growth and I've just become a number, or they don't communicate. I use one-to-many communications during tax season. My clients, I don't get a lot of status check calls because I'm constantly updating people with what's going on in the office using one-to-many. And so if they're like, oh, the tax professional doesn't communicate, those people I'll take. But if they're just like, oh, my accountant sucks, or I was paying too much and I was paying them a lot, Yeah, even if I'm
not
a
gonna be
lot
any
less
better here.
expensive. Well, even if I'm a lot less expensive, I'm not, I don't play cowboy with other people's money. So if I feel like I couldn't defend the position under audit or in tax court, I'm not going to
Mhm.
take that position on the return. I don't care what your prior person did or didn't do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, that's a great way to distinguish the difference between somebody complaining and somebody having a legitimate and fair point
Mhm.
against somebody else. You know, and then there's always those extremes on both ends. You know, there's the clients that you would love to replicate, but there's just not that many people in the world too. You know, there's not that many really good people or great clients in the world, and those are all taken. Nobody's going to give them up.
One of my favorites came to me because they moved around. He's an air traffic controller, and they moved around quite a bit. And they came to New Mexico, asked around, got a recommendation, and the person that was recommended did their federal, did their New Mexico, and left two other states. I want to say it was like Louisiana and California, or Louisiana and New York, and wouldn't return their calls, and just left these two state returns off. And I think it was because that person kind of wanted the easy sale. But then when it came to actually, the California thing was a rental property in California. Yeah. So, when it came to actually doing the work on something that was kind of outside his scope, instead of just saying, this is beyond my scope and sending it down the road, he took the work and then just left these people hanging. And,
It's not
refer it
okay.
out. Refer it out. It's really okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, a lot of people, I mean, I've seen this a lot. Like people, they have egos and they don't like to not know something or be wrong. A lot of times, I've seen other tax practitioners, they make mistakes and then they double down and try to cover it up for the client too. Oh, we didn't do that because you don't have to file a return in California. Like there's, I don't think I've heard that one. I made that one up, but I've seen
Careful,
some
Scott.
interesting, I know I've seen some interesting emails from other practitioners, and I haven't been doing this for that long, but I think in most cases, professionals too, like a lot of times we have to contain our egos. It happens to me sometimes too. I used to be afraid of admitting I was wrong or made a mistake on something. And I don't know if I would necessarily double down that bad, but it's kind of gloss over those kind of things. So it's the therapy part falls into a lot of categories. Do you have any employees too?
I used to. I don't now. This was, again, since the epiphany, I've kind of decided I'm transitioning to retirement. So I'm kind of holding steady. I'm one of those crazy people. I love preparing 1040s.
Yep.
And I will probably...
Nothing crazy about that. We need those people.
Until I'm fully retired, I will probably always be preparing some 1040s. But I decided I was no longer in growth mode, and between the automation software that I put in and not deciding I did not need to grow my practice, my admin and I parted ways amicably. She's got a great full-time job. We're still friends. We were friends before she was my admin, and we will remain friends now that she's no longer my admin.
Good.
But yeah, I don't have employees anymore.
Good to hear. A lot of times, sometimes the work relationship ruins the personal relationship in some cases. So out of growth mode and the tech, the automations that so before we switch over to you, Mary, I want to go into out of growth mode, right? Like
Sure.
that is another thing that we're starting to see a trend of people actually outwardly talking about it, because before it was just grow for the sake of growing.
Right.
Nobody knew why they were growing or what they were reaching for, but they wanted to grow. I want to grow as a person. I want my team to grow professionally, but I don't want to grow my top line. I want to grow my bottom line. That's the growth mode I'm in now. Like I want to, I want to evolve. I want to grow as a person, and I want the people around me, I want to be able to help them grow. But growing the practice put a stomp on that. Like it was very hard. I had higher turnover when we were growing uncontrollably. I couldn't handle all of it. It was out of control. the amount of clients and people onboarding and everything that was going on. And it was always just playing catch up. There was never a time to take a breath outside or inside of tax season. So,
And sometimes,
I got burnt out.
You have to leverage. I had a friend, a colleague that almost bankrupted her business because she was trying to leverage her growth. And so she would have to hire more people, get more stuff to handle the growth. But you're so busy, you don't really notice that your margins aren't where they need to be, even though you've got this huge volume. And since I took the time to kind of settle down and simmer down, I moved my office back into my home. And yeah, I made, even though fewer clients, I made more money this season than I have probably any other season, because my overhead was reduced dramatically. And even losing the admin, I have wonderful clients. So I didn't need the admin to handle status check calls. And I didn't need the admin to handle, I don't know, crazy stuff with, I still let people bring in paper, but I was able to handle the scanning and things like that because I have a client management software that kind of helps me just kind of keep things moving along. And so there were days where all I did was kind of prep stuff for getting ready for data entry and processing, and days where all I did was data entry. So,
Got a girl.
Sounds like you're doing less work and making a little bit more than you were before.
definitely.
So let's hear about the automations
Squeezing
and
your
the
head, yeah.
and the planning. I know how do queens wear
I
those
wear them all the time.
All day
My
long,
head
right?
is squishing.
It's squeezing my head, yeah.
If I wear my hat and headphones too long, sometimes it starts to hurt my head. So I can only imagine.
Right. Well, you get
having
these two
like
little
the
points
the
that are
pins.
just like,
Yeah,
for you.
they're grabbing
Scott,
onto your
for
hair
you.
too.
Sometimes, yeah.
So the automations and the workflow management, or the software.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so my biggest one was so the first kind of one of the things I realized before I had an admin was how many problems one-to-many communications solve throughout the years. So if I'm getting a little bit bottlenecked, like before the pass-through entity deadline, I don't have too many pass-through entities anymore by choice. But if I'm getting bottlenecked before that deadline and people have turned in their 1040s, I send out a one-to-many email that reminds people, hey, I'm really focused on these pass-through entities right now. And so if your 1040 stuff has been sitting here for a while, don't sweat it. As soon as that goes, I clear these bottlenecks really, really fast. And that cuts down on the phone calls, and the emails of, hey, I turned in my 1040 packet 3 weeks ago. So that was kind of the first piece of the puzzle. And then my goal for a couple of years ago was I have to add self-scheduling app, because I found my admin was spending a ton of time going back and forth with my clients on, especially during COVID, when they could drop off their packets, when they could pick up their packets, because we were still doing in person. I'm mostly virtual now. I have an 80-20 rule. We're not expecting 100% of the clients to book through the self-scheduler. I have some elderly clients and some disabled clients who always get that hands-on help. But if I can get 80% of the people who can use the self-scheduler to use the self-scheduler, that frees up my time for the clients who really need more hands-on approach. So I added the self-scheduler, and then I added a client management system or workflow management that let me set up pipelines where I have kind of a pre-processing stage, and I can use conditional logic to flag new clients that have to go through an ID check.
Sure.
And they see, and it sets up automatic messaging. So it's like, okay, we've completed your ID check. Your stuff is now set up in my software. All of your stuff is here, or you said it was all here. Your job is now in the data entry stage, or your job's out of the data entry stage and we're now in review, or, okay, we're done. How do you want to get your return? Do you want an appointment? Because some of my clients don't want review appointments. And so it's like, if I used to tell people, oh no, always come in or take the review appointment. And it was clear they just didn't want to be there. And it's like, well, if you don't want it, I'm going to let you opt out. Now that's recorded in your tax file that you opted out. So you can't say you didn't tell me that. But the pipeline management kind of helps me manage workflow, but it also communicates with the clients automatically where their stuff is, what's going on.
That's really nice.
Which app?
Which app?
TaxDome
is the one I use.
TaxDome. Yeah. Okay, that does a lot. That doesn't just do the workflow. I mean, there's a lot of other things. I believe
it does a ton, and I don't use all of its functionality because my practice is so tiny. My practice is nano too, but I do. I take full advantage of the invoicing, the conditional logic, pipeline setups that save me so much time.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of stuff that I personally take for granted. That we have that ability, because I don't even know life before it. I mean, we did have life before it, but I don't remember. It's like life before COVID now. I don't remember what life was like before COVID.
Mm-mm.
My mom was such a paper person, and my mom was one of those people, I stand in awe of them. I can't do this. Prepared taxes while the clients waited in the office.
Yeah, no.
Now, some of it was just her client base. We're kind of one W-2, sure. We don't do paperwork, and maybe I still don't like doing it. And in this environment where there's so much to reconcile and check, and I don't know if how that would have worked for my mom, but she was also a paper person. File cabinets, gigantic file cabinets full of manila folders with those two prongy things. You know the two prongy things, Mary?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I have some.
You probably have a hole puncher just for those too,
and
right?
The special punch.
Those don't go anywhere. Those hole punchers, we can't throw them away because what if we need them one day?
Right? You don't know.
I threw the hole punches away. I threw all the little prongy things away. I chucked all.
Do you put it in the recycling, or do you just throw it away?
I threw the things away. I put the prongy things in the recycling and the manila folders in the recycling, and most of the insides I shredded, unless it was obviously something that could go in the recycling, like instruction booklet or something.
Yeah. That's so much work. Oh my gosh.
My mom, I think, spent a lot of time just managing paper. And my mom kind of geeked out on that admin stuff. And I was like, I can't stand doing admin work. The more of it I can automate, the better.
Well, doing admin work makes us feel like we're accomplishing something.
That's true.
We're crossing things off of our list. And we did a lot today because, look, we just put all these files away that have been piling up.
You can see it. You can totally see it.
It does give you that.
See the work that you did.
It gives you that endorphin or dopamine or whatever it is. It gives you that boost. But yeah, it really hoses your workflow when you get into that kind of a mode. And so So
I've been having days where I just get rid of and I can physically see like a big trash bag full of stuff.
It's rewarding. It's rewarding to see that you've accomplished something, because let's see. So far today, I've got my list, because paper. But just for my lists.
I love paper.
I'm a paper.
No, I make my notes on paper too. I got my notebooks.
I had 4 tax returns that I was going to finish because they were ready to be done. I still can't finish them. I mean, no wonder we always feel like we're failing at something. We can't get anything done. So yeah, if you can have a day where you just clean off the desk and look, I moved these piles and now there's a blank spot. I can see something.
Airy Fairy Amber. Airy Fairy Amber says that's unblocking your chi. It's like, I can't work in all this clutter. So if I can clear the clutter and regroup myself, I can come in tomorrow and go. And like when I have stuff like this in the middle of the day, the recording, it's the same thing. I just got back from travel. So
there's a lot.
Did I accomplish a lot of client work today? No, other than responding to some emails.
Yeah.
But I did, we won't look over there. I did clean off my desk.
I can't see over there.
It's good.
So
You're okay.
It's good. Yeah. So I worked on my desk and things like that. Again, it gives me a feeling like I did something, but it was going to be difficult to get into anything too deeply because I knew I had other stuff coming up.
Yep. Yeah. Sometimes you got to plan it that way. But I've started, and this was just today, got my list, the stupid 4 returns. One of them I'm still working on, but there again, still had to email. So the 3, I'm like, okay. And I wrote down, emailed, I did something about this one, so I can still cross it off. It's not done, but I can still cross it off for today.
You did something. Yes, you did something toward that.
Did something about this. Because otherwise, all the boxes just sit there, and then you move them to the next day. And like,
Yeah.
this is dumb. But now I can let them go because I did something. It's out of my hands. I'm waiting for people to get back to me.
Right.
Always waiting on a reply. You know how many item statuses we have stuck in there.
Oh, yeah.
It's never past due when you're waiting on something, right? Like,
Yeah. What's nice though is when the client calls and says, "Hey, where's my stuff?" You tell me. I'm waiting on you now.
Yeah.
That's one area I need to take a look at because I do find myself losing patience with clients, certain clients. You said, well, I'll send out like a one-to-many and everybody's like, oh yeah. And so they'll email me back, what do I still need to get to you? And it's like, go into TaxDome or go into your email and find the last thing I sent you. Don't make me look this up for you. And it's one of that is
but
my
isn't
biggest
that
sticking
what
point.
I pay you for? Isn't that what?
No, it actually isn't.
Nope.
It actually isn't. I'm your tax professional, not your mama. And no, and I definitely think that client management and managing client expectations is such a huge part of running a
Huge.
successful practice.
Absolutely.
Because if you set that up, and I see a lot of newer preparers or new solos, again, they need all the business they can get. Maybe they have time to do that level of handholding, but then when all of a sudden you don't, the clients feel like the level of service has diminished. Where if you set up the expectation of, here is your part of this job, we're a team here, and this is your client part of this job, from the outset, it makes life a lot easier down the road.
Yep.
So I want to pivot a little bit. I do like to always get into hard numbers. So let's first cap it off
God,
with
he's gonna
that.
ask me
Hard numbers that you want to share. Okay. Top line, bottom line,
No.
time off,
Okay.
and I guess that's it for yours, right? Like sometimes we ask owners pay depending on how many employees, but we know what your pay is if you go bottom line.
Okay, so-
you don't have to share all of these. Not everybody does.
Come
but
on, Amber.
it's always good.
Okay.
We like hard numbers.
So my numbers, I'm just going to preface this with my numbers are really low. I charge.
You don't have to preface it. We already said nano. Right?
Yeah, nano. And I'm like I said,
These are nano numbers. Add a couple of zeros to the end of it if you want to flood your ego. But we're not talking about egos today, right? This is the other
half an income. So my tax revenue is probably around 45,000, and that's gross.
Nice.
Okay.
And so I'm probably netting, and I spend a lot of money on CE and tech and insurance. So I'm probably netting maybe 35 out of that. Okay.
That's a decent margin if we're looking at margins,
since I moved
right?
home, yeah. The before I was earning crap, and then that doesn't include the writing income. The writing income adds another maybe 10 or 15K onto that.
That's good.
Nice. Yeah.
And
So
it's
your
a lot
writing income's
easier.
about the 20%. Yeah, it's easier. So that's the 80-20 principle, right?
Yeah.
Your 20% of your time is probably spent doing things that are much more. I don't know how much time you would spend on that, but it's fulfilling, right? Like
It's fulfilling. And
not just easier, because writing is not easy for a lot of accountants.
okay, so I'm not an accountant. I am an English
That's
literature
true. Yeah,
major.
that's right. That's
I'm an
right. I
English
forget.
literature major
gonna
that
say
worked
this
as a
every single
technical
time.
writer for 20 years. So the writing for me, people are like, oh my gosh, I had someone freak out because when they heard how I published for Forbes, basically works like a blog. You just write it and hit the publish key. Nobody looks at it. I mean, my editor will sometimes look at it and recommend a change, or sometimes I'll have a colleague read and go, hey, there's a typo, and I can go in and fix it. But it's just push the button and it is live on Forbes.com. And for people that haven't been writers their whole entire life, that can be really frightening.
Yeah.
I write
Sure.
really fast,
Yeah.
but that's what I
So-
do.
So, would you be willing to apply for the lit department at Accounting High?
There you go.
Would you be interested in a
The lit
position, a
department at
faculty
Accounting
position?
High.
Yeah.
Sure, get me some
The,
details. Yeah,
I guess is it the lit department these days? What's the department? The English department?
Yeah,
Maybe English.
Yeah, usually English.
I love it.
Yeah. We're not going to have you write in Spanish, but
Thank God.
I definitely need a writer. I'm not the writer type. I definitely was born with numbers in my head. There's always numbers in my head. All right.
I kind of had the
Mary,
numbers beaten out of my head, but they're coming back.
You got this.
All right. Amber, that was beautiful. We're going to have you stand up from the hot seat, and Mary, you're going to sit down on the hot seat, and then
All right.
we're going to pivot. Tell me about your childhood, Eminem. You're another Eminem too. I've got to point that out. That the latest episode I released with guests, I had Eminem as my co-host and the guest. These are two different people, obviously, but I could have had you on, and it would have been a lot of M's.
It would have been. Absolutely.
There.
Yeah.
And I just want to clear this up. The initials for millions is your initials, right? Like if you're going to say, I have a firm with $5 million, you would say 5MM, right?
Yep.
Okay. Just want to clarify that. Tell me about your childhood, Mary.
So I was born in St. Paul.
Do we have time for all of this too? Like,
See, I do have a meeting, but it's not until 3:30, so I think I'm good. So,
all right, cool.
Yeah. So I was born in St. Paul in Minnesota. I'm a Minnesota girl, born and raised, lived here my whole life, except for I had 3 months where I lived in Australia and I did student teaching. And then my girlfriend says I can say this because I lived for 3 weeks in India when I took a class there, but I received mail. So the theory was that if you receive mail in a place, you can say that you've lived there. So.
Although I don't think it would qualify as a tax home.
No, it wouldn't have been.
There was no taxable events.
There were no taxable events. Yeah. None in either of those places, actually. So I've always been in Minnesota. I got my first degree, which was in elementary education from the University of Minnesota Morris. And then several years later, went back and got my accounting and finance degrees from the University of Minnesota Duluth. So I've got a few of those degrees out there. I am a CPA. So I got my CPA in 2010, working for one of the big four, and kind of done a number of different accounting areas. So I've done the big four, I've done Fortune 50 corporate work, I've done a national firm, I have worked at a small regional firm, I've worked at a very, very small, tiny little firm, and now I am at the firm I'm at with our 13 people. So we've got a number of CPAs and still fairly regional, mostly just upper Minnesota, the Arrowhead region. So.
Is this a micro firm? This is not a nano firm.
It's not a nano firm.
We've defined nano as one person, right? Is that
so? Okay. I would say that we're not. Maybe we're even up to small, but still fair, but growing. We've got enough work that we can definitely use more people. So it's that piece.
We all could use more people. That's a whole nother.
I'm going to hire them all. So you're in trouble. I'm sorry.
I'm already in trouble.
This is my
Yeah,
goal.
I've been in trouble. Yeah, I've been in trouble because they need me too. Sometimes at the I don't even do anything anymore. So
right.
There's that. I'm a whole nother person that I've gotten reserves in the back end. But 13 people. Yep. That's an interesting number there. And we're not going to go into the 13 being like a floor that you skip over. I never hear people say 13. They usually like, we have about 15 people or we have 10.
Scott, I'm an accountant. This is the number.
Yeah.
We have 13.
You've got to. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I like specificity too. I dig into the details. So you were a teacher before all of this, right? Before all of this accounting, you kind of glossed over that. What was it? Elementary? Yep. What did you teach?
I taught 3rd and 4th grades. So I had a joint class 1 year, and then I moved with my 3rd graders up to 4th grade, did that for a couple of years, and then I went back to 3rd grade. So 8 and 9 year olds, roughly between 8 and 10 years old. They're pretty wonderful, actually.
They're so cute.
They are.
Yeah.
They're so right cute. At that age where they're learning to read really well, or they're getting into reading, and so we've got that piece of it, and they're asking really good questions because their brains are kind of exploding. and they're still young enough that they love you and respect you,
Yeah.
and the hormones haven't kicked in. And
Haven't
so,
kicked in.
yeah, it's like the perfect age.
It's precious. My son is that
Yeah.
age, exact that age. And I know, I get it. Like everything that you just said is happening in real time. I've got a daughter in high school though, and there's a lot I could go
Oh,
into
yeah.
there, but that's a whole nother ball game.
It is. It totally
Right?
is.
Like a whole nother persona that they embody.
Mhm.
High schools, I got a vivid memory of high school. I don't remember third grade, fourth grade, elementary, but this whole accounting high thing is like vicariously living high school again, or just reliving that almost and making it better for some people who didn't have a good high school experience.
Absolutely.
I think all of this qualifies you, though. I think you're qualified for a faculty position at Accounting High
excellent.
when they open
Good.
up. Yeah.
I miss the teaching. I do well, and I do a lot of that with my clients. I don't miss parents, so I'm not going to sit in on any of the parent meetings. Just so you know, when the high school opens, I don't do parents anymore, but I miss the kids.
Well, parents are like clients, or are parents like the metaphor of so the students technically are the clients, right? And are the parents like the family member that has to come in? And
honestly, I think the
technically
parents
they
are
are
more like the
family members.
IRS or the government. It's
Yeah,
the,
that's where. That's it.
There's that oversight that hangs down. It's never consistent. Is always messing everything up. Comes in at the worst possible time. Is not supportive of the client. So yeah,
It's beautiful. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the truth. So you miss certain aspects of it, but this world, there's a lot of similarities. There are a lot of metaphors that you can drive to, almost every profession. There's a lot of underlying thematic similarities, so to speak, right?
Yep.
Amber, you experienced that with your other profession prior to this. So, and you can bring that in you can bring a lot of yourself that you were in those other professions to this, and find interesting creative ways to still get that outlet, right? Like Amber, you're still writing. Mary, you're probably doing a lot of things. You're probably still teaching and coaching people in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
Too.
Yep. There are some times when I tell my clients, if I end up teaching myself out of a job, that's fine. Because then I am comfortable that you know what's going on. And I would much rather do that. I want my clients to understand what's happening. Their tax return shouldn't be, it is a foreign language to them, but it shouldn't be something they can't understand. So.
Translator too. I've had another M&M on here that he said he's an accountant translator, tax translator.
Yep.
Right. Like we have, that's part of our job is to translate to the layman.
Exactly.
What they're seeing, what they're looking at on this page of numbers.
It's not intuitive, right? Accounting and tax are not intuitive.
Not at all.
Yet, Intuit's the biggest company in our space.
It's wrong. It's so wrong. But people expect to be able to understand something, and they don't, and then they get confused or upset about it because this is what should have happened. It's like, in the normal world, you're right, but this is a different world. This is its own little thing, and it's not the way you expect it to be. So once you learn these rules, you'll be fine. But you got to learn the rules. So.
Yeah. And it's different, states are different.
Yep.
We've got 50 of those. We have some states that don't even have tax, that just forget it. Let's tax your sales. And this is something that most people don't appreciate about our jobs, is how difficult it can really be. Mm-hmm. And they assume my taxes are easy.
Right. This person always did them, and they never had any questions. And so it should be super easy. I've just got all of these forms.
Should be super easy.
But here, let me give you half of them.
The clients miss also we're so tuned into the changes in the tax landscape. And I could give you an over-under probably on how many of my clients missed the whole thing about the mileage deduction change.
Oh, seriously.
A lot of them are just going to miss it.
Yep.
And to their credit, some of them, for a lot of them, it doesn't matter. But
for some, it will. It'll make a difference. And then that's part of our job, is to say, all right, hey, look, I'm going to look like a superstar because you missed this. I got it.
Yeah. What about meals being 100% for a brief period of time now, right? Like we got a little bit of a ticking clock here of how many meals we can load into our clients'
We
returns.
are all going out to restaurants from now until forever or the end of the year.
Forever or the end of the year, yeah.
Whichever comes first.
So, yeah.
That's hilarious.
So, do you enjoy this work, Mary? Do you enjoy doing this?
I do. So when I was 12, my mother told me that because I liked math, I should be an accountant. And clearly I didn't listen to her because I did all of the other things. So I got into tax because I was a receptionist office.
Our parents know best.
Right. Apparently I should have listened to my mother. Please don't tell her that part though.
Okay. She won't listen
okay,
to
thanks.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair. So I was the office manager for a double office that were accountants and financial advisors. And I was answering the phones and just doing basic things. And I was really bored because it was off season. And so I started getting clients. And what I learned was, so I think the best way I can explain it, my mom and my brother are very visually oriented. They're super good at jigsaw puzzles. They can sit down, they see the colors, they see how pieces work together, and they can just throw those puzzles together, and it's great. And I suck at them. I'm really bad at them. But for me, tax is like that. And so it's taking all of the pieces and just putting it together the way that it's supposed to be, even though I don't know what the picture looks like until I'm done. But the picture is going to make sense because I've put all the pieces together. And if it doesn't make sense, then we have to rearrange some things. And my brain is really satisfied with that because there's an answer. And I don't have to get there the same way that somebody else does necessarily. So, somebody else is going to sit down and go through the whole process with A to B to C to D. And I might start at A and then skip down to N because I don't want to deal with C and D right now, but I'll come back to them. And so it doesn't matter which order I do it in, I still get the answer at the end. So my brain finds that part really satisfying. And then the teaching part and helping to explain something that just most people find to be scary to bring that down to regular human level is also really satisfying. So yeah, I very much enjoy tax.
There's an art and there's a very valuable skill in being able to explain something like you just did to seem like this is obvious, this makes perfect sense. Like to take an analogy, like I'm pretty bad at those. I do them all the time on this podcast, and a lot of time, half of the time, nobody knows where I'm going with it until finally I drive it home. But to be able to do it so gracefully and say this is like a puzzle, right? Like with the way you were saying that, I was thinking of the way I've been writing my raps. That's kind of like and this is a whole nother aspect of me that I talk about probably plenty, but yeah, I mean, just the puzzle of words and getting words to fit in the right place, and everything eventually gets there. And this was all those pieces in this box. Now it's a picture.
Exactly. And maybe the picture isn't what you thought it was going to be. So you keep your...
Well, that would be a very difficult puzzle if it was...
Well, and that's what tax is,
you don't
right?
have
because
a
they
reference
keep
point.
changing the rules on...
Yes.
And now my puzzle pieces don't fit the way that they were supposed to before.
Now I got to flip them over, and then there's something else on the back,
or maybe
too.
I got additional pieces I didn't know I was supposed to have, or whatever.
Or extra pieces. I finished this puzzle, now I have all these extra
putting together
pieces.
the furniture, right? Did I need these 7 screws and 8 nails? I don't know, because I got them left over.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole nother puzzle, too. So, accounting as art, that drives that's a deep subconscious, like everything is art in my mind sometimes. So, first, where did that name come from?
So, in 2016, my husband and I moved from Minneapolis back up to Duluth, and we had both left our jobs, and we were in kind of a mini retirement, trying to figure out what it was we wanted to do next. I knew that tax was something I was going to stay with. It's too much a part of my brain right now to let it go. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just go out on my own, do my own thing. And the people that I thought, and I still think, who actually really need help with it are artists, because they just don't it's so foreign, and artists are wonderful people, and they're creative and lovely and amazing, and they do these wonderful things, and business is not really part of that brain for them. And so I kind of thought, well, if I were going to really go out on my own, and like Amber, I've got the luxury of not needing my income. So I could do this, and I could just offer my services out, and I would really work with artists. And the more I kind of thought about that, the more I kind of thought, well, accounting itself, to make it a little less scary, it really is an art. To be able to take all of these pieces and put them together into something that makes sense and is used. And I mean, it's not something you're going to hang on your wall, but there is an art to it. And so that's kind of how it all came out. So accounting is art.
It could be. There's some aspects of it that we hang on our wall. We hang our licenses and our professional aspects of it. I don't know if we hang our tax returns on the wall.
I have yet to see a profit and loss that I've prepared up on a wall, but maybe one of these days.
You know, I might put mine on the wall just because you said that. We're having a hard numbers episode today, and I'm talking to my numbers, and I'm going to put them on the wall. I'm proud of them right now. Because they're
frame them up, put them up there.
Yeah, I like that.
So do people come into your office and tell you you're not creative? Because I get that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not like you. I'm creative. And it's like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Right.
Well, I get the opposite though. I get a lot of people tell me I'm too creative to be an accountant.
Oh, I got ones I'm too loud. I don't remember where we were, but Bob and I were talking to somebody.
So people just tell me I'm bipolar whenever I get too loud.
Oh,
that's
no.
what they go straight
what do you do?
for.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hyper is the word
really?
I get.
You can't be an accountant. You're too loud. I go, oh, all right.
Well, accountants are traditionally more reserved.
This is true.
And solemn, and we don't speak up. We have our red stapler.
I do have the red stapler. It's in a drawer somewhere.
I do. It's over on the table over there.
and one of my team, my employees had one when we had an office. I mean, he probably still has it at his house, but yeah.
Yeah.
So you're in an office.
I am in an office.
I mean, both of you are in an office. I'm in my basement.
No, I'm at the house. I'm in my front.
Oh, you're at the house too. Oh, okay, yeah. You have a file cabinet behind you, I think.
It's not a file cabinet.
That's
What
not
is
a
it,
file
Amber?
cabinet?
No.
Okay.
It's a gun safe.
That's a file cabinet for your guns.
Yes,
It's a file cabinet for your guns.
There you go. It's all good. I was expecting something more
Sadly,
yarn related, but that's fine.
It's the small gun safe.
It's for the guns and the drugs.
There's the
right?
big-
You're in Albuquerque. We can't talk about this.
Way to
but-
come
The
full
big
circle.
rolling laundry cart has the yarn in it. So,
That'll go.
it's not
So-
a filing cabinet.
So you're bringing the art of accounting, and you didn't. Did you pursue that working with artists?
I didn't. So we had about 6 months where we were in our retirement phase. And during that time, I went down to the Minnesota CPA Society's kind of annual conference. And I ran into the boss that I had when I was learning accounting. So the one that I was the office manager for. And I hadn't actually reached out to him because I was convinced he was going to be super angry with me, because I had convinced him and the other boss to help me go back. So they both paid half my tuition when I was taking classes. So I worked full time and then did all my classes at night or online until I reached that point of either I quit my job, go back and get my degrees, or this is as far as I can go. So I ended up quitting my job and going back to school full time. And I was convinced that my former boss was just super irate about this, the stories that we tell ourselves. So I ran into him at the CPA conference, and he was super excited to see me and invited me out for coffee and said, you know what, this other one is the woman that I had worked with back in the day, who was his partner. She was going to be retiring, and he needed somebody to come on board, and would I be interested in coming back and working for him? So I ended up getting to work at the same firm where I learned taxes as a CPA. And so it worked out perfectly at the time. And I was there for about 5 years before I left and then came over to the firm that I'm at now. So, but there's a little soft spot in my heart for all of the artists. And I have a couple of I don't want to say off the book clients, but there are some people that I will work with.
You help out.
So
Yeah. Kind of impetus that you want to work with. You might as well keep that going too. That's great. Yeah. So we got to talk about Tiara Squad.
Yep. because we're wearing them.
I'm wearing a hat that has
They're
some silver
crushing our
on it. I
heads.
tried. Yeah, I don't.
Can't believe you didn't get one.
I believe. Yeah, I didn't get a tiara, but I have 2 girls in this house, and I know that we have some lying around. I didn't spend a lot of time looking, but we have too much stuff. I got to get rid of half of our stuff anyway. Like that's a sore subject. We have too many toys and everything, and then there's a boy in the middle too. And like half of the stuff is getting handed out. It's crazy.
Good luck.
So,
Yeah.
Tiara Squad.
May the force
Let's
be with you.
let's start with that. I love the use of hashtags, the creative ways that y'all are on Twitter and the things that you're doing. I didn't even know what a thread was. So when I first saw, it might have been Amber that put Tiara Squad, and then I saw a thread, I was like, oh wow,
yeah.
this is a really, it like, to me, I just kind of, but then I was also thinking of like spinning yarn. I was thinking of like Sleeping Beauty, and then to see the picture that you did recently of the actual
The spinning
spinner?
wheel.
Oh, yeah.
I have
Spinning
a couple
wheel.
of spinning wheels.
Oh, that's a whole nother, like, you know, whenever I see a spinning wheel, I think of the scenes from Sleeping Beauty and all of that. But
And they always say she pricked her finger on a spindle or whatever, or is that
a
part?
spindle, yeah.
Yeah, so that doesn't really, if she's using a spinning wheel, it's more of the Rapunzel thing, you know, spinning the straw into gold.
Yeah.
But
there you go.
no, yeah,
Yeah.
pricking your finger on a spindle is actually kind of hard to do. They're not that pointy as a rule. I don't
Well, that's Rumpelstiltskin, not Rapunzel. So get your
Ooh,
story
wow.
straight here.
Okay. There we go.
I don't know. They're all like a muddle in my head right now, but
In your
Yeah,
defense,
I-
Amber, your kids are gone. So it's not
They are.
It's not like you're watching the Disney movies all the time anymore.
that is a fact.
So
And
I will watch them when my kids are gone. I love Disney movies. That's I absolutely.
Sleeping
do.
Beauty was the
Yeah.
first movie I saw in the movie theater.
Pinocchio was
Wow.
mine.
The Disney Sleeping Beauty.
You're aging yourself.
You know
here.
what? I have
Both
aged
of you.
myself
I
so often.
tried not to
It's
age
fine.
either of you, but you both have kids too, right? Your kids are.
No, Mary doesn't
I
have
don't have
kids.
kids.
See, that's where
Mary doesn't
different
have- oh,
people.
you don't
Yeah,
have
Mary
kids.
doesn't have
Okay.
kids. I have 2. One is out of the house. My oldest is out of the house, and my youngest is at New Mexico Tech.
Nice.
Oh, cool. Sorry we glossed over that. Those kids are very important to our lives as
They're-
everybody. And or if you don't have kids, then your students
I got
are
my
very
students.
important
Well,
too,
and
right?
we have a goddaughter and we have nieces, and so there are children, and a lot of our friends have kids. So we have kids in our lives. We just don't have our own. So
You have a mother aura about you, though, Mary. Like you're very like I just see you as nurturing. Like what I said on Twitter
you.
too about you being very authentic and like every Friday how you bring out the best in people. Like some of your best tweets are the ones where you're just outwardly like you are important and you're just talking to everybody. Like it's there's a warmness and a comforting aspect and art to all of
thank you.
this life thing. There's an art to life
there is
too.
absolutely.
That's
And you're painting on your canvas, and your canvas is Twitter. Your canvas is work. It's life. It's all of it.
Absolutely.
that's kind of the vibe we wanted to have behind the Tiara Squad. Was that it should be authentic, and it should be supportive, and it just needed to be kind of real. I know Mary talks sometimes about her imposter syndrome, and I talk about my imposter syndrome and some of my other battles, just to let people know that you can have lots of letters behind your name. People can think you're all that, and you can still have one of those days where it's like, I feel completely stupid.
Right. Well, and everybody has them, and nobody talks about it. So everybody thinks they're the only
It's
person.
a spectrum too.
It is.
It is. It is. And so
Like it's so crazy. No, keep going. I don't.
No,
mean to
I
interrupt you.
kind of figure if I'm open and honest about it, then at least somebody else who's feeling the same way doesn't have to feel. You can take away the feeling the shame or the embarrassed or the feeling bad about it, because you're not the only one feeling it. Everybody does to some extent. Although my husband informed me that he doesn't. Like, fine. Which I can understand.
There's something to be said about
Yeah.
that. Yeah, you probably. Yeah, it's something to be
Which
said
is
about
fine.
that too. There is some people that really don't though, and they have that full confidence. And I've had conversations with people like that, and it surprises me because they come off as very modest, and they don't come off as. But it's also the people that come off as the least modest tend to have the most imposter feeling.
Yeah.
too. 'Cause they're compensating, right? They're compensating. The least humble people are the ones that feel like they always have to project. It's the ones that have the biggest horse, right? Napoleon and everybody, right? The nicest cars,
That's
the biggest.
right. Look at everything else around me.
everything's so
See how
flashy.
successful I am.
Look at my top line revenue, right? Like, look how big my firm is, how many employees I have, all that.
Big hat, no cattle. That's what we say
Yep.
out here.
Exactly.
I dig it.
Exactly.
I like that. You bring in the cowboy references. You're not going to be a cowboy for your clients. I forgot. What the
Oh,
phrase
yeah.
was.
Well, New Mexico. People think it's just like Texas, but no, New Mexico's got
Yep.
good cowboys.
See, but New Mexico is still an imposter of Mexico, right? My wife is from Mexico.
Well, it's not new and it's not Mexico.
I know.
Yeah.
We've established.
I don't
this.
know. It's different. It's definitely got some Mexican flavor to it, but it's got a lot of Spanish colonialism too.
It's Tex-Mex.
No.
It's not. No, sorry. It's not Tex-Mex. I didn't even mean to do that one. That wasn't my intent. That wasn't my intent at all. Sorry.
Them's fighting words.
Tiara, it is, right? Like, this is, sorry, you're not nestled into that whole bundle of states that I said earlier. So Tiara Squad is a culture, right? It's a movement. It's an embodiment of who you already are, right? It's partially, it's like a label. It's a tag.
Yeah, it's
that you can
a
tag onto
hashtag.
feelings.
Yeah, it is.
That we
And-
tag onto a certain kind of a vibe.
Yep.
State of
Definitely.
mind.
And it is. It is. I think Amber. I think you wrote it on Twitter earlier. It's the fiercely supportive. It's not just kind of that half-assed, you'll be fine kind of a thing. It's, oh no, we got your back. I know where the peat bog is.
And a peat bog, yeah.
So a peat
what?
bog.
A peat bog.
What's that?
Yeah. Oh,
Go ahead,
I haven't
Mary.
used it in a while. I guess people have been pretty good.
People have been good.
So
Oh, except for that one guy that said I was a cat that needed a cage. But we won't go
what the hell?
Oh,
Come on.
there.
So
who did that?
So I have an actual peat bog that's up in northern Minnesota, and for a while in 2020 at least 2021, it was a nice place to refer to where we were going to just hide all the bodies. So when
Fierce support of tax Twitter.
support, absolutely.
Peat bog. It's like peat moss.
Yes.
But it's a bog.
Yeah.
So when I think bog, I think of labyrinth and the bog of stench.
I can.
Yeah.
So it doesn't smell like that, but it is
Okay.
all. It's surrounded by
marshy.
cedar trees, and then it is sphagnum moss.
Cedar to me smells
does,
good.
yeah.
The sound of it smells good.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then it's sphagnum moss that has been there for centuries, and so at the bottom you can cut down and get into the actual peat of it. So I have a peat bog.
They actually mine it or used to in the UK because that's what they used for heating.
Yep.
It's the peat fires. You would just cut out like big
Oh.
chunks of it, and yeah.
So you have a peat bog.
Mary has one.
Do you do anything with it?
So I have never actually hidden a body in it. I feel like I should actually say that.
Okay. You probably should.
Very
though,
clear.
Just to give
There
some.
are no bodies that I have put
Yeah,
there.
or go the other direction and actually hide a body there, so you have the ability
Right.
to
Detect
reference
it.
it
Oh,
and say,
so sorry, I thought that was
it's a
right,
threat.
exactly.
Then it turns into a threat.
So, but now the flip side of that is that it is actually carnivorous. It's a carnivorous fen. We have pitcher plants, which are carnivorous plants. They eat a lot of bugs. And then we also have a plant called the roundleaf sundew, which is carnivorous. So we've got plants that eat things.
So you could put a body there, and the plants would take care of it.
Eventually. But mostly I just go down and take a lot of pictures because it's a unique area with the pitcher plants and the sundew. We have cranberry. It's a cranberry bog. So this year there are a gazillion cranberries coming in. So that's going to be awesome.
That's my favorite fruit.
So typically I go down and just tromp around and take a bunch of pictures and try not to get exsanguinated by all the bugs. So,
Speaking of pictures, you sent a lot of dope pictures from your vacation.
Hawaii was amazing. Yeah.
2-week vacation to Hawaii must have been a dream.
You know, it is. It really is. This past vacation, both Bob and I got COVID. So we we didn't do as much as we wanted to between isolation and just being kind of sick. But if you have to be sick and isolating and in quarantine, Hawaii is the perfect place to do it. Just sit outside, sit in the sun, let the sun bake it all out. It was amazing. So yeah, and taking pictures is one of my favorite things to do. So that works out pretty well for me.
So, did we leave anything on the table? I want to make sure that this round table, of tiaras, is we're not leaving any meat on the bone here or anything. I would love to have you both as faculty at Accounting High.
I'd be happy to.
And you have separate positions. You're not going to both serve the same position and be
I don't know. We're the same person.
She's
so why wouldn't
math girl CPA, and I'm not.
But you're very much not the same person.
We're not the same.
We're really not.
I feel like I can relate to the people that mix you guys up, but that's only because you were both brought up to me in the same conversation that I had with Adam. And he brought you both up, and I wrote both your Twitter names down on the same piece of paper. If I had to go look for it, I'd find it. And I added you both on the same day. Combined between the two of you, there's 11,000 followers.
Hey.
Over 11,000.
They're married.
There's a large portion of that. She's the tower with the longer top up to it, right? The twin tower. You know how
Yeah.
one was a bit taller than the other? Yeah. She's got the
way
13th floor and then
taller.
you don't.
there we go. That'll
yours,
accept. All I know, Amber,
We're
you
both
provide so
just-
much more content. I just am here for venting.
Kind of salty, though. We're kind of salty. We've been known to drop an F-bomb or two.
What does salty mean?
Salty.
I hear
Yeah.
that phrase and I never looked it up. I always assume that it's rude, but it's not really
Well,
rude if you're referring to yourself as
think we're
salty. 'cause
I
you're
kinda
both not
like-
rude.
But without the misogynistic
Right.
overtones.
I think salty is just we're not taking any from anyone.
No, definitely not.
I love it. I like that. And you shouldn't, right? I mean, that's confidence too. There's a lot of confidence in salty. Maybe sassy. Is salty and sassy similar or no?
Sassy's a little nicer than salty.
Yeah.
Salty's got
Okay.
Salty's maybe we'll date ourselves again.
got a
Salty's
bit
got
of
a
a
little
rough
age
undertone.
on it.
Yep, definitely.
Okay. A little bit of a backslap, like a.
I'm definitely swearing more if I'm salty. When I'm sassy, it
Yes.
might be just kind of sarcastic. But if I'm salty, I'm swearing.
Swearing.
Okay, so you got a little bit of molasses on the sass, sasses, and the other one is just bitter. Not even bitter. Salt is a
just
whole
salty.
nother part of the taste
Yep.
spectrum,
Yeah.
right? Sass is sweet, and salt is salt.
Yep. So I think sassy is sometimes it's more of a defense mechanism.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
Salty's definitely we're playing offense.
Yep.
Bring it.
Yep. Definitely.
Bring
We're
it.
taking control. This is who I am. Exactly. You're right, Amber. Bring it on. I'm ready.
See, this is the segue into the next episode where we just go deep now. This was all surface. This episode was just on the surface of the bog. We haven't even dug deeper into the bog yet.
We haven't
and
cut
to
through.
find the
Right,
bodies, right?
exactly.
No, haven't cut
We
through.
haven't. Yeah. So this is just a teaser. This is just a little bit of salt on your plate. Like
Yep.
this was, and with the taste spectrum here, we've got the savory, we've got the salty, and we have the sassy, right? So what is savory then? If we're gonna say salty, sassy,
Savory, I would
What's
say is
savory?
more along the lines of kind of the supportiveness.
Yeah.
That homespun
Yeah.
kind of I'm here for you, and let me tell you how we can help out, or the advice that happens. That caretaking. I would say that.
One that you're going to see me give a lot that's savory too, especially younger tax pros, is don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up for making a mistake. Don't beat yourself up for,
motherly too.
setting
Yeah.
a boundary and letting it slide.
Mhm.
These things happen.
Right.
That's,
Absolutely.
How do I incorporate all those words into the title of this? Like, you know what I mean? I'm trying to get it in there where I don't have to say. So salty and salty is the same thing. Sassy and savory, we'll get there. I mean, I got plenty of time. There's about 6 months between now and when this actually is
gonna air.
aired.
Yeah.
So we got plenty of time. It'll come to me later.
Yep.
So yeah. I would love to keep this going. I've got a call in about
Yeah,
5 minutes.
Mary
I
has
think.
a meeting.
unless I already missed it.
I've got clients coming in, but
we'll
this was
figure it
great.
out.
And Amber, it's always so good to
was.
see you. I love that.
Back at you. Ditto.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun.
Yeah, this is great. We'll have to do this
Yeah.
again.
Fun.
We'll make it a quarterly event here. So for the next 3 months, which this one probably won't even be aired the next time we do this, for the next 3 months, start tacking up your different salty, savory, and sweet tactics.
There we go.
And bring them. Bring your best.
What
to
y'all
Accounting
need
High.
to know. Keep yourselves sane.
That's right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
keep your drugs and guns safe
Yes.
in the safe.
There are no drugs in my safe.
Well, we will never know.
You will
haven't
never
opened
know.
it yet, so we don't know yet.
It will
we'll
not
have
be
3
open.
months to
Nope.
figure that
There we
out.
go.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
not
this
gonna
was
be-
great. Thank you, Scott.
So
All right.
be
This
good
is
out
good.
there,
No.
and if you can't be good, be safe. Then, right? Yeah.
Sure.
Exactly. Oh my goodness.
You're not going to wear your tiara for your client meeting?
No, although I'm not wearing it for the client meeting, but this is a client who actually would understand and respect it. So it's a combination of a couple of
Keep
different
it on the
types of
desk.
artists in town. So they would be behind it.
Get it? Awesome.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank
ladies.
you,
All right,
Scott.
thanks,
We'll talk
Scott.
to you later.
Peace out.
Bye.